Welcome to the Morningstar series, How to Be a Better Investor. I'm Holly Black. With me is Dan Kemp from Morningstar Investment Management. Hello.
Hello, Holly.
So we've been talking about all the behavioural biases we have that make us make bad investment decisions, which is quite depressing when you look at it, but you're going to tell us how to avoid them.
Well, I'll certainly try, but they are really difficult to avoid, and they don't just impact new investors, they impact all of us. We have to be constantly vigilant when we're making investment decisions.
Well, as well as being able to blame sort of Darwinism, what I like is that most of them have got jazzy names. So what's today's?
That's absolutely right. So today's goes by the name the endowment effect. And this is a fascinating bias. And what it means is that we tend to overvalue things that we have. So once something is given to us, or once we buy it, we tend to irrationally overvalue that thing compared to other equal things. And there's been some amazing work in this area done by Richard Thaler and others, where he got people to overvalue mugs that they'd been given that had very little intrinsic value. But we need to be aware of this idea that when we own something, we tend to value it too highly.
You mean just because I've touched something, it doesn't go up in worth?
Exactly right, but it feels like that to us.
So how does this then translate into investment?
Well, it's quite important when you're thinking about investment, because it leads to a poor comparison between the things that you own and other things. So that could be a portfolio, a fund that you own. It could be an individual stock. It could be an index investment. And so take, for example, owning a fund where you've placed your money with a fund manager, then when we're thinking about investing with that fund manager rather than another, then we could overvalue the skill of that manager compared to another that we're not invested in. And so that makes us slightly irrational and unwilling to change our mind. And in investment, of course, as the facts change, that's when you have to change your mind. But just generally, when you're comparing two things, one that you own and one that you don't, just be aware that you probably overvalue the thing that you own compared to the thing that you don't. And so something that people can do is make sure that when they're comparing things, they have very clear criteria for comparison, rather than just trying to decide how they feel about that other thing. So often we try and shortcut decisions by using our intuition, which can be helpful, but in other situations it can be harmful. And so when comparing two things, one that you own, one that you don't, have a clear checklist about how you would value those things, and make sure your comparison is unbiased as possible.
Are there any signs that you can look out for that are indications that you are maybe just overly attached to something and doing this?
Well, hoarding is just naturally hoarding things.
Just all of the funds.
All of the funds. And again, we see that in investors sometimes. We come across investors who are very good at buying things and not so good at selling things. So instead of a portfolio, they build a collection. And that can be harmful to returns, because if you own lots and lots of things and gradually collect them over the years, then you could lose track of some of your older investments, not so up to speed with what's going on, and they can really harm you. If you're not able to keep track of everything, then that can harm you. So again, just think about whether you are comparing based on intuition, something you own, something else, or whether you've got a really clear checklist or list of criteria to help you compare the two. And if you're not using the latter, then I'd recommend it.
So it's good to have conviction, but only when you've actually got some facts to back it up.
Exactly right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us.